And the lesson that I learned was, if it's not worth the next 10 years of my life, I shouldn't give it 10 minutes of my attention.
Planning your entire year out, big rocks, little rocks, but it's a great conversation. You wanted to talk about the preloaded year.
Okay, if I implement this plan, does it get me to my goal? Yes or no?
How we're going to structure it, what our strategies are, and putting that all in place, then you have the wrong.
And I don't care how we get there, the path, like we're just going to get there.
Worry is the killer of all creativity.
You don't die, it's fun, and it's going to get you there, then it's probably a good plan.
I want to be around people that speak my speak and that energize me.
The business should serve the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur should not be a slave to the business.
So those are like big blocks that you got to plan for now, because it's not like EAs just show up underneath the Christmas tree.
If you're watching and listening to this and you'd like to go through this process, just find me on Instagram at Gabriel Ryan, DM me the word plan.
It's too small. I want to pay you more.
Things are going to change. Things are going to show up, and sure, it's flexible, but it gives us those train tracks that we can literally plug into the calendar and say, like, if we do this, then we know we're going to get to our goal. Same thing.
Yeah, and this is the secret sauce, right? I mean, this is why I was telling her, this is why we do engagement.
That's what we have to plan out. So like the way that we tackle that is it starts with...
Engagement is the new word. And if you're not hearing it now, it's going to be the biggest, especially when AI slop and AI tsunami and all these words are coming in.
This episode is coming out, I think, like right around kind of one of my favorite times of year. And it doesn't happen to just be because it's Christmas time, but I don't know about you, Brady. One of my favorite times of year is that time actually kind of between Christmas and New Year's. I find as a time of being able to kind of reflect, look back. You know, we have a value in our company that says, hey, you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So we really take time to count the wins and celebrate the things that maybe I don't know if you're anything like me. Sometimes I like quickly gloss over those because there's so much I want to do that I don't take time to celebrate the wins. And then I can definitely tell you about the lessons. Usually, you know, sometimes we call them failures, the things where it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I learned a whole lot from that. But, you know, we say sometimes we win, sometimes we learn. So I love this time of year for that. But then also being able to look forward. I think as entrepreneurs, we're often living in the future. And, you know, I don't think I'm alone on that, but I love this time of year for that specifically. But the question then becomes like, okay, great. It's one thing to start the year off well, but how do we finish well? How do we actually create a plan that we stick with? I don't know. What do you love about this time of year, about that kind of work, whether it's looking back, looking forward, and what are kind of some of the rhythms that you've got?
Well, I mean, this type of year is interesting because one, it is, yeah, like you're saying, there's a reflection point. But two, there's also like what worked, what didn't work. And, you know, right now we're kind of in a different space because not only am I looking at this year where we are, but I'm looking at my next 10 years because I just turned 50. So I went and did this big North Star, you know, playbook and methodology, put all my businesses through it. And, you know, it took me 3-4 months back when I was about 38, 39 years old, because I was getting ready for that 40 decade. And now I'm in that 50 decade. So not only am I trying to plan what's going on for next year, but I'm really trying to like pick and choose what my life is going to be like for my next 10. And I think that makes it extremely exciting, but also extremely scary because I've been learning so much. I just want to start cutting things loose. So when I say cut things loose, I just like, there's things that I believe in that I could do or help or, you know, participate in. But right now is about that time of year where you have to decide what's going to define me and my lifestyle, my family, and how much time am I going to have to deposit here versus there. So yeah, that's where we're at in this time of year.
I dig it. Especially, and I love the idea, you know, you've literally put a brand around it with the idea of next 10. There's something I talk about in my book when I share kind of part of my personal story when I was 39 turning 40, and had kind of shit hit the fan, come to Jesus moment, with things going on in life and business. And I don't know if there's any lessons in life that you've learned where it's like you've had to go through the same experience multiple times to finally learn the lesson. This was one of those things for me and the lesson that I learned was, if it's not worth the next 10 years of my life, like, I shouldn't give it 10 minutes of my attention, 10 minutes of my focus, 10 minutes of my energy. Well,
that's hard to say if it's like, a $500,000 paycheck, for doing something, and you're like, big number, but at the end of the day, it's going to scrap all of your time. It's going to take you away from where you're supposed to. I mean, we just had this big deal come through, and I'm like, I loved it, but it was a lot of work, and it put everything else behind. And
totally,
so that 10 minutes of my time now versus my next 10 years, it is. I mean, do I think that that's going to pay off in the long run? Probably not. Did it seem really at this time a smart choice? Absolutely, because the number was high.
Sure. Yeah. And that's where I found myself at 39 and everything up to that point, first business at 24 years old. So, at that time, 15 years in business, some ups and downs, some wins, some losses along the way. And really up until that point, up to 39 for me, the ends often justified the means, where I would look at and I would cast the vision of like, hey, what do we want to create, financially, in business, with team, all those things. And really it was a kind of like whatever it takes methodology, and I don't care how we get there, the path, like, we're just going to get there. And what I learned in that particular moment, and again, it was a lesson that continued to pop up a number of times. If you want more of this story, like, you can get it in, like, it's in the book. I'm not going to go into detail right here now, but it's worth diving into. But it was this idea of like, oh, the way that we get there actually does matter. And that's okay if that shifts. Like for you, in your 40s, that path might have been different, and you're setting a different trajectory for your 50s. And I think, you look at any successful individual, be in business, in the kitchen, in family, you name it. It's not just that they all had good ideas. Everybody has good ideas, but like, you look at any one of them, they had a solid plan that they stuck to, and they probably had kind of some general principles and rules that they followed. Ray Dalio wrote an amazing book literally called Principles, where he talks about how he's built his business and practice around kind of some core principles. So it's how we get there actually does matter just as much as the final destination itself.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite lines is, what you focus on expands. And this is that time of year where you want to pick what you're going to focus on. And if it's not clearly defined, if you're not picking a specific route or path, then you're going to be like the J.J. Cale song. And it's just, they call me the breeze, and you're going to go whichever the way the wind blows. And usually that wind picks up energy from cash, so
yeah,
it's right now is a great time to start thinking about like, what does your year look like? But then how do you do it? Like, what's, I'm in Dan Martell's Elite, and we have, picked up this concept of like planning your entire year out, big rocks, little rocks. But it's a great conversation. You wanted to talk about the preloaded year, but, I think it matters and changes up for different people. So like, walk me through what we're talking about here. Like, how do you approach it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's most of us, I think, are in this kind of frame of mind this time of year, December and January, of setting new goals, reflecting, wanting to kind of create some momentum going into the year, and even some of these ideas like big rocks, pebbles, little rocks, sand, all of that. If you've not heard that, I'm sure you can do a quick YouTube search on big rocks, little rocks, and you'll see this idea of, okay, if we put the little rocks into a jar first and then the big rocks, like, all of a sudden the important stuff doesn't fit. But if we put the big things in first, then everything kind of fits a little bit better. And I think that's an important idea. I think it still leaves people asking, like, what exactly what you're asking. Well, what the heck do we actually do, because we all go into the year with good intentions, but usually by around Valentine's Day, it's like the plan's thrown out the window. And often it's because we've not set down the railroad track. So, one of my coaches, Taki, he talks about this idea of like laying down the train tracks, where you can imagine if we were trying to get from LA to New York, we could go on a plane, we could go by car, we could go by train. And I'm not saying that going by train is the fastest. So like take out the idea of like which one's going to be the fastest, or the fastest way to get there. But if you think of like how a train operates, as soon as you lay down the track, like the train is not deviating from its course at any point. If it did, we've got like really big problem. Like that's, you talk about a train derailing, look up, derailed train on TikTok. You'll probably find some pretty big fail memes. But with,
that's what it sounds like
cars,
when you, that's what it sounds like when you don't plan your year ahead.
Exactly. Or it's like, you think you're planning your year, but really all that you're doing is you're looking at the destination. You're in LA looking at New York, and then you order an Uber, and the Uber is going to get you from LA to maybe Tucson. And you're like, okay, well now what? Versus imagine if you could actually go, hey, no, like we're going to lay down some train tracks, straight line, LA to New York. I know exactly where I'm going to be in February, in March, in 4th of July. I'm going to be halfway there. Like imagine having that level of clarity where literally all you would have to do is then execute the plan, and it's like guaranteeing that it's going to take you forward. That's the kind of level of clarity that I'm talking about that you need in a plan. And the only way for that to work is if, one, you have clarity on the destination, two, you have clarity on what are the most important things, like you talked about those big rocks that will get you to that destination. And then three, really, it's like, what is this thing simple? Does it actually appear doable? Like, do I look at the plan? Can I look at the plan on one sheet of paper and answer the following questions? Okay, if I implement this plan, does it get me to my goal? Yes or no? If I implement this plan, do I have fun? Yes or no? If I implement this plan, do I die? Yes or no? Hopefully you answered yes to the first two and no to the last one. If you don't die, it's fun and it's going to get you there, then it's probably a good plan. Most plans, if you look at them, are like good in theory, and they are strategies and ideas of like, hey, we want to do events or we want to do engagement. But if you don't actually translate that engagement to your calendar and what you're going to do every day, every week, that's the big missing moment. So the thing that was like the biggest takeaway for me that really shifted my planning process, and we'll talk about here in the preloaded year, was yes, being able to reflect on the wins and lessons, being able to look forward and figure out, okay, where do we want to go? Look at some of the strategies and ideas, but really most importantly, then translating that into the calendar, like literally into the calendar of like, what are the times that I'm going to take off, and what are the big money-making activities that I'm going to do, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly, maybe weekly, and plotting that out in the calendar so that everything else can fit in and around that. And now all of a sudden you have a plan that all you have to do is like show up and execute, and you don't have to ask questions, and you can share it with your team. Everyone can know the plan. We just did this with our team, shared it with our product team on Tuesday. Got a small marketing team that we went over with everything yesterday. And then just before this call with my video guy, I was able to share the entire content plan for the entire year of like, hey, here's what we're going to be working on when. This is when we're doing workshops. These are going to be the themes of the things. This is when we're doing events. And things are going to change. Things are going to show up. And sure, it's flexible, but it gives us those train tracks that we can literally plug into the calendar and say, like, if we do this, then we know we're going to get to our goal.
Yeah, and I feel it's like it's this isn't like a new concept, because like you said, you can get online and you can figure out like big rocks, pebbles, and sand, and how you like load your year up. And I mean, but there's things that come to mind. Like I've been doing the North Star method forever. Like if I have any confusion or clarity on a project, like you said, if I'm not going to commit to it for 10 minutes, then I wouldn't commit to it for 10 years, right? And if you're going to commit to something for 6 months, Does that help you get to the next 6 years of your life? I don't know, but I'll tell you, like every time that I focus on a project, that I have to have a North Star, because it does. It's when you go offline just a little bit, it just gives you right back. You know exactly where to show up, where to go, what you need to get done. And right now, this type of year usually includes some, you know, people who like to push themselves outside of their box a little bit and really start to put in for the next year. These are the things that I want to do to grow myself. And if you're not doing that, you should really consider that, right? Like showing up just doesn't need to be easy. Showing up means that you're pushing yourself to do things that your body says is not right for you. And sometimes when I'm listening to my body, it's like, all right, if I know for a fact that my body's telling me not to do it, chances are it's probably the right thing to do, because my body wants to do the simple things. It wants to eat, it wants to procreate, it wants to sleep, it wants to eat, it wants to do the basics, right? And at the end of the day, it wants to protect yourself from any pain. That's why working out sucks for some people, you know, unless you beat it by doing a routine for a couple of 2-3 years with that dedication commitment. But I think the one point that really comes up is the word required. And if you're going to make progress, it's required to have destination and process. And right now you're talking about building a destination and the process to get there so that you can just show up and do the work every day and not feel like you're second guessing, right? And I think everybody like lives in that second guessing space. So like, all right, if we have a destination or process, like, do you have a system you follow every year?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's been, one that has been refined year over year. And this last session, which we did on Friday, so just like 4 or 5 days ago, going into the new year, probably feels the best. And I've been doing this for 19 years now in business, at different levels of planning. And I think the reason why it feels so good this year is because of how the clarity and it translating to the calendar. Because before, when I would reflect and look back, I would set kind of some goals on, okay, like we want to do X amount of revenue in the business. Here's what I want that to look like in terms of team. Here's kind of some of the vacations and things that I want to take. But instead, this year really started with the lifestyle and the money-making activities. Because like as entrepreneurs, those to me were the things that were the most important. You had shared a video with me with a guy who has a bagel shop, I think in Wisconsin, was it?
I am really not interested in the grind. I'm not interested in building a business that ruins my life, ruins my relationships, puts me through immense financial hardship with hope of maybe, possibly someday, passing the burden on to my family. I don't want to miss every holiday, every sporting event for my kids. I don't want to squeeze in family time around the margins of my work life. It feels like saying that is an admission that I'm not cut out for growing a small business, especially in food. Every time I open up Instagram, I'm overwhelmed with 2 pieces of content. First, small business owners talking about how much sacrifice they're giving to keep their businesses afloat. And second, small businesses closing. It seems like those 2 things shouldn't exist so neatly together. I do a ton of financial forecasting as part of my search for a space of our own. What it would look like if the rent was this much, if we had this big of a space, so we could produce this many bagels, just baseline due diligence. And in those projections, I always set a salary for myself. A reasonable salary. A salary in line with the amount of work it would hypothetically take to run a shop in that location. And I just think, if I had this space with these hours, with this size team, and we were making bagels every day, would that be enough? Would I be happy? Would I feel like I was fairly compensated? Could I live the life I want to live with my wife and kids? If the answer is yes, then I want to work hard enough to make that a reality. If the answer is no, then I need to change something. Because the whole point of owning a business is to build the life you want to have, not to destroy it.
Because I think if you watch this, you'll be able to relate to what it's like to own a business, especially in hospitality, especially in food service, and feel like you just have to be a slave to the business. Like, hey, there's this hustle culture of, hey, we're going to show up every day, and that's just what's required. Again, the means justifying the ends, like I was talking about before.
Well, that lines up to me with this other component is like, worry is the killer of all creativity. if you don't know what your destination is going to be, if you don't know how to show up, right, then you're going to be in that place again, Gabe. And I think that's why I shared that video with you, is because a lot of people in hospitality have the heart and soul to be there, but they're going to worry because they don't know how to get there. They know what it looks like, they know what it kind of feels like, but they haven't put the work in to lay the tracks. And that is why it's so important that, one, you have that North Star methodology in your mind. You can see the long-term picture. And then you've got the preloaded year that you do every year to catch up, to make sure that you're following that 5 or 10 year goal, right? So you set your North Stars up in 3, 5, or 10, or you set up all three, and then you use the preloaded to make sure you're on track, right? And I've done it in a life perspective and a lifestyle approach, like to the point where, like, some of my hacks have been talking to my wife. Are we going to hang out with these people this year? Like, I've literally cut people out because they don't energize me. And I had to make that one of the big boulders one year, is like, I want to be around people that speak my speak and that energize me. And I want to help people. If they don't want my help, then what am I doing, right? Am I just, I mean, that's family. Like, family's there to love and support, but you don't have to help them every day. You don't need to, like, guide them to water, and, you know, unless they're little people, you know, who like baby cakes and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's really important that we understand that, in my mind, when I shared that with you, it's a commonality with people in the industry, that they get into something, they love it, but they don't see how the metrics are going to add up to their favor in 1, 3, 5 years. And I think a lot of people are afraid to get to that point, to look at those numbers. And that's why I applauded, you know, this guy, because he was just so smart about it. He was like, he's looking at the gripping details of numbers and knowing that I am going to be a slave to this business. And eventually I'm not going to be able to give it to anybody. It's going to be fun for a while. I'm going to build community. I'm going to build trust. I'm going to build a name for myself. But is it going to provide the life that I need without me having to put it all in and to give up the parts of my life that I don't want to give up, which is time with kids, time at games, time at family, time at growing a family, time at building kids, like all that other stuff. And I think that's what I found very interesting. The guy's thing went great because, you know, 300-400 people started commenting on it, and every comment that was in there, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a true pain point. People are fearful of doing the work to lay the tracks down, to say, let's be brutally honest. What am I doing next year, and can I agree to stay on a path? You know, because
it doesn't feel sustainable. Like it's like, okay, I can do this for a season, but it doesn't feel sustainable. That's why I realized at 39. I was talking with a client yesterday. Those are the words she used. She said, I'm getting through like a really busy season, and it's great, and we're doing all the things, but this is not sustainable. She's like, I've got to do something because it's not sustainable. And so that's why with the preloaded year, and there's a bunch of work that we do, like when we go through this process with clients before we get to this point. But the first thing that we would do is take a look at, okay, the business should serve the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur should not be a slave to the business, right? And if you're watching and listening to this and you'd like to go through this process, just find me on Instagram at Gabriel Ryan, DM me the word plan. More than happy to kind of like share the full blown process, because there's more steps that get up to this point, but I want to share enough on this call to make it valuable, or on this podcast to make it valuable. And we would start with, okay, like let's start what's the biggest rock is your life. Like if you as the entrepreneur don't have the energy to sustain, to actually be able to continue to show up day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, then it's all for naught. So we have to start with those pieces. So like just a few days ago, literally just did that. I'm super excited because tomorrow my wife and I are going to have lunch. We're going to actually look at the preloaded year together. We're taking just a longer lunch together to actually fill in some of these blocks, because what I ended up doing was looking at, okay, Jesse Itzler talks about this idea of the misogi, which is this idea of like every year having kind of a big thing. Like you just came back from an incredible trip in South Africa and you're bungee jumping and you're
It wasn't planned.
Camp and doing all this stuff.
It wasn't planned, and that's why I was unhappy.
There you go. Totally. But it's like, whether maybe you're going to do an Ironman or run a marathon or like a mud run or something like that. Maybe it's you're going to write that book for the first time. Maybe it's you're going to go on a Christmas shopping spree in New York with your partner, like during Christmas time. Like it doesn't matter what it is, but like planning something, like what would make this year epic? Like what's something we could look back on this year and be like, that is the year that I blank.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. I love it because everyone loves to go to New York for, mid-December and see the colors and lights. I mean, it's a nostalgic thing. If you haven't done it, I suggest going and doing it. It's a fun scene. Yeah. But, I think what you're saying to me, Gabe, is I look at like health, right? Health is one of those big pieces. Is health important to you next year? If it is, then block out your calendar now, not when you're having drinks on the 30th of December. Like, this is where you talk to your EA. Like, is your lifestyle and your time during your day, is it important? Do you have an executive assistant? And you're like, can I pull $24,000 out of my budget next year to get an EA? And what will that allow me to do with my time? So those are like big blocks that you got to plan for now, because it's not like EAs just show up underneath the Christmas tree or in stockings anymore. I would like those days when they did, but they don't. And you have to like go after it. But like, I think health was a big one of putting that time. Like that's what I'm working on right now. I was like,
so
what did I accomplish
my question
this
to you,
year?
because like this isn't where I think most people have a hard time like, okay, like making that next step, that connection. So if health is important to you and you're like, okay, I know I need to get some of my time back. When you say putting it into my calendar, what does that mean? Because I can share what that means and kind of like I think some of the epiphanies that I've had, but I'd be curious because I think this is where most people struggle. Is like, okay, great, I know I need to prioritize, but like now, like what does that actually mean? I'm going to put this into my calendar now. I'm going to prioritize my health.
That means for me, what it means to prioritize health into my calendar is that I put it into my calendar and I show up. Like right now, I'm like from 9 to 11 every day, 5 days a week, I am there without question. And I honor that. Like that's what it means to put health in your calendar.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like, especially for those like you may be more disciplined than most. I think if you look at guys like Jocko Willink or David Goggins, I mean, they both happen to be Navy SEALs. We could probably look at folks in other arenas as well who just like have this insane discipline. I look at that and I go like, because I know, and I've known for the last 10, 20, 30 years, like what the rhythms are of like what I should be doing if I want to get a certain result. But I keep doing the same thing. And so the big unlock for me was actually not just looking, not actually starting with the daily and weekly rhythms, but starting on the bigger time frame. So for example, like health, I go, okay, like health, if 2026 is the year I want to get in the best shape of my life, what is going to be that climax, that pinnacle, that like mountaintop moment or experience that I want to create? So maybe, for example, when my wife and I celebrated our 15th anniversary, we went down to Tulum. So like that trip literally became a point around which it's like, hey, I want to look good in a bathing suit. I want to look good naked. We're going to like, it gave the why behind then the showing up. So starting with kind of some of those bigger blocks, like, okay, what are the one, how many times a year do I want to take maybe some extended time off? What am I going to do there? And maybe there's going to be one in the fall, maybe there's going to be one in the summer. And then it's like, okay, every quarter, if I went on like a mini adventure, what would that look like? And then maybe every month I have, how many days do I want to take off? Do I want to take a 3 or 4 day weekend and then going, okay, like if I were to tie those things as like motivation and little like mile markers along the way, so that when it's a Wednesday in April and I'm not feeling it, I've got the like, hey, this is why I'm showing up, as opposed to just the thing that's like super far out in the future. So like, this is where again, I think the ultimate vision, the goal, the North Star is critical. Like you have to have that gives you like directional certainty. But then putting these kind of like mile marker moments in the calendar for me has been a big unlock of like, oh great, now I can put these things in. I know we're going to Thailand in July. That's going to be something like, okay, what do I need to do the months and weeks leading up to? Because then I can start looking at what are those weekly rhythms. But the weekly rhythms tend to be, at least for me in my planning process, like the very last thing that we look at.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is sometimes it's nice to, a lot of people get all their shit done right before the holidays. They get all their shit done right before they go on a trip. Like they know they're going to be gone for a week or 2 weeks. So they're going to like, I got to get everything done before I go. But if you have all that planned out all the time, then you're always living like on a work sprint, a relax, work sprint, relax. It helps you focus. And I think to your point, like, we have that same kind of like model, right? You have the opportunity to gift every one of our viewers and audience members the plan, right? If they DM you. Same on my side. Like I can give you the North Star process. Like I've been doing it for so long. I actually made like a custom GPT. I got like master prompts on it. I created a playbook for it, which allows you to see why this is so important. So if you DM me the word vision, I can pass that to you for free. Now, tying back into where I want to go next is this idea of content, right? A lot of people don't understand content and engagement. So how does content and engagement, if it's a sore spot right now, if your health is a sore spot, if your business is in a sore spot, how do you then focus on that now and lay the tracks?
Yeah, I love
Just
it.
If it hurts now, fucking put the tracks down. That's it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like if there's pain points right now, this is a great time to fix them, right? Like lay down the
100%.
tracks for what you're confused on, and I think that's a really important element is like, someone's like, oh, well, I'll just focus on health and I'll focus on some relationships and getting this dude's business off the ground, but they won't have a content plan. And I think this is a great time to start to lay those tracks, So it's on cruise control for the whole year. Like, just have it be on cruise control. And if it breaks, then put your time into it. But just don't ignore it.
Totally. And especially this time of year, because there's like two camps. Some people, they like lean in. Like you and I and our clients, we're leaning in during this season. Others kind of wait for it to pass and be like, hey, let's catch up, Q1. And then what happens? Then you're behind the 8 ball already and you're reacting to everything that's happening throughout the year. So it's a great time of year to tackle those things. So step one, we've got to start with like the lifestyle piece, the thing that's going to refill our cup. The book that I read says, foolish is the man who goes to build a tower and doesn't count the cost. So in other words, like if we look back at the end of the year, was it fun? Was it sustainable? So blocking out those times, those big trips, those weekend adventures, how much time are you going to take off? Like, what do you need in order to have the energy to sustain? So that's thing one. But once those things are blocked out in the calendar, and we have a whole process for like doing that and actually literally blocking it out, then we get to, well, still got to make money. Like the point of business, yes, we love what we do and we want to serve, we want to surprise and delight people. And sure, we might do it if we didn't get paid to do it, but we would need something to pay us. So like the thing has got to make money. So looking now at what are the big money making activities that need to be done in order to fuel the business, and like figuring out those things on purpose rather than being reactive. So for any business, doesn't matter what industry that you're in, there's going to be some form of advertising or marketing. So it's like, okay, how do you get your name out there? Maybe it's doing events, maybe it's your SEO, maybe it's your local, maybe it's organic marketing. Even if you just rely primarily on referrals, there's something, if you want to be in control of your growth, you got to figure out, well, how do I drive referrals? So we got to figure out like what are those big money making activities on the marketing and advertising side. And then secondly, on the sales and engagement side, which is a big topic of what we talk about, on this show, where people are kind of, if you're going into the year knowing like, oh, I should be doing engagement, I don't feel in control of my growth because I'm at the whim of the different seasons and fluctuations of like when people are going to be coming in or not, and you're really not in control. Well, I would say now is the time to figure out like, well, what would I need to do to be in control in those two areas, on the kind of like marketing, advertising, basically getting eyeballs, getting in front of people. And then two, on the conversion or sales side, an engagement side. Okay, like once I have people's attention, what are the money making activities that I would need to do? And I'd be happy to like dive into like what that looks like for our business if that's helpful, or we could kind of like talk through some ideas of what that could look like in different maybe clients that you've worked with, or we could kind of workshop this. But really, it's getting clear on that now. Like, what are the money making activities? And again, I've found the unlock has been not starting at the daily and weekly of yet, because we know we need to do engagement daily. We know we need to be posting consistently. But if we go bigger than that, looking at like, okay, what are the bigger themes, events, and things that we're doing around? Like I know you do a lot in and around events. You've got one that's you're getting ready for right now. So
yeah, but like for example, the thing that I'm working on right now, we've got an event tonight. I usually did all the event. What I thought energized me actually drained my energy. And it's this cyclical thing that we all get into, right? What drains you versus what provides you energy to thrive. And typically hospitality, events, and I've been doing it for 25 years. I go in and I host an event. I love it, the ability to put it together. I think it's energizing me, but it's really now kind of drains me a little bit. And then you get there and you're like, wow, this is just the end of the night. Like I'm ready to celebrate. And then you get a bunch of drinks. So it even drains you even more because the next day you're going to be sluggish. Mm-hmm. And everybody lives this cycle in hospitality. And I think that's one of the big hidden curves that we don't see. So I don't know. I feel like if you look at events, I said, I don't want to be in the drain position anymore. I want it to be fun. What needs to be true? And
what needs to be true? It's the same thing with your staff, right? Where you're like, if they're having fun, I know the event's going to be awesome. So what needs to be true for my event, or my staff to be having an incredible time? Because that's going to ripple out. It's the same thing true with like, okay, we know we need to make money. What are those money making activities? What would need to be true for that to be fun and grow the business?
So let's crystallize this right now, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about making a plan, a preloaded year for the coming year. We've got an idea that that's an annual activity. Then you've got a North Star process that could be your 3-year mark, your 5-year, your 10 mark. And that gives you the range of what's going to make you thrive or be happy in your position or what you decided to do with your time, family, friends, business, whatever. When it comes to content and digital forefront, I want to like really hit on this hard because every year it changes a little bit, right? Just like business does. But, I think with going into this next calendar year of 26, that engagement is the new word. And if you're not hearing it now, it's going to be the biggest, especially when AI slop and AI tsunami and all these words are coming in. And right now, I just got out of a conversation in one of my masterminds yesterday, and they pulled together 30 different reports from all the best individuals and corporations. Everybody all pooled together, and they came up with the new hierarchy of engagement for next year. So we can walk through that real quick. It's got some interesting findings, but it allows us to say, here are the things that are going to be the building blocks, right? Now, why do people hide from engagement? Why do people hide from their social media PR and website people? Because it doesn't provide enjoyment. Like you get a look at a vanity metric about, oh, it looks cool on my Instagram. I got some pretty photos of my business. Mm-hmm. Like get photos of your kids and smile. You know what I mean? People spend more time on their business photos than they do on their kids' photos, sadly. But let's look at like what we can do now. If that energized you, if you knew that your Instagram and your website were doing so good for your business and it actually got you excited about working on it, the world would be a different place. But it's not, because no one gives a fucking shit about that vibe. They're just like, it's kind of, I just get these crazy invoices every month and I don't really get to pay for it. And I'm not really making money. But what happens if you got those invoices? You're like, it's too small. I want to pay you more. Like, when was the last time you said that to your digital team? So if the element that could be missing, what is the reason why you're not laying the tracks now to have a better system? Because you're outlaying cash. If you're not spending money on social media and your website and you're getting by on a single thread, then that's fine. Go for that route, right? But if you're spending money and you don't have a team who's planning right now about exactly what all our content's going to be, how we're going to structure it, what our strategies are, and putting that all in place, then you have the wrong team, right? Yeah. Because for my clients, I'm out here trying to figure out what's the hierarchy of engagement for 2026. And, you know, guess what? At number one, DM sends, right? That's the ultimate endorsement. It carries 50% more weight than any other metric on Instagram algorithm is DMs sends. So that means they want you to send people messages because they know that it's an 80% open rate versus email, which is bullshit at 20% and going down, right? My emails aren't even getting through anymore to people. It's a waste of time. So I focused all of our energy on DMs, but it carries 50% more weight, more than watch time, more than sharing, more than saves. It's the king of right now is engagement. And, you know, I think understanding how DMs work, and I don't think people even have a clue. You know, I was talking to a buddy the other day at cocktails and he's just like, I need that. And I'm like, yeah, but you just need a person. And he's like, I've got those people. I'm like, yes, it's starting to sink, right? And don't let it sink in too late.
What those people need. Yeah, they like, so he's like, I need that. I have the people. So what do those people need? They need a plan. They need to be able to look at the calendar and be like, it's Monday in April. What do I do? It's the third week of August. What do I do? They need to know that plan.
Well, social media is getting it's getting so simple too because there's chatbots and agents everywhere. If you look on Instagram today, there's a 50% chance in one scrolling of doom that you're going to find somebody who has some kind of AI tool that can sell you how to do content creation. Like it's give me a calendar year of content strategy. Well, tell me, it should say tell me about your business. Tell me what you're doing. What is your selling? Here are your avatars. It should be inquisitive about you. Give your tone, this and that before it generates. But it's so easy right now. Like literally it's so easy to lay tracks. And then you just say, I want to make sure that our team is doing the best.
Totally. Like, I think that's the blessing and the curse because it doesn't like, it's so easy now to create content and it's only going to get easier. But it's not getting any easier to have something worth saying. And I think that's the missing link. That's the missing piece that we have to plan out going into the year of like, what are we actually going to talk about with our content that we're publishing one-to-many and in those one-on-one conversations that we're having in the DMs? What are we going to say that's worth a damn? That's what we have to plan out. So like the way that we tackle that is it starts with our ideal client. So you've heard of, you know, ICP, your ideal client profile, or an avatar. It doesn't matter like what you call them. Think of your favorite customers, your favorite clients, people just like that. And we have to start with the story that they're telling themselves, the thoughts and beliefs and stories that are bouncing around in their brain about what it is that you do and like where what you do crosses over into that conversation. It could be, local Italian spot. They do everything, but from scratch. One of my favorite restaurants here in town. It could be, hey, we are the kind of place where people go to for a nicer dining experience, or maybe to like celebrate some bigger events and things. Well, the stories that I'm telling myself as their clients, their customers, their patron, that relate, like where's the crossover between what I'm thinking about day in, day out and what they actually do, comes down to things like anniversaries, date night, friends coming into town, right? Okay, so we have to start there. We have to start with our ideal customer. And if you could list out the top 2 or 3 desires, like core desires that those people have, or the 2 or 3 problems that they want to solve. If again, using my own experience, maybe one of those problems I'm wanting to solve is just connection with my wife. I've got 4 kids. Our lives are crazy busy. For us to actually get away for a date night is kind of a big deal. And this is important because we could go on social media and we could just like post beautiful photos of our restaurant or of the food, and sure, we'll get some engagement, but if you can actually connect with like the core problems essentially that you're solving and the desires that you're fulfilling for your clients, this is going to hit a lot harder. So when we plan out the whole year, we have to start with those things. And I would say there's probably like 2 or 3 core problems that you solve or core desires that you help fulfill for folks that you could build your entire content strategy around.
Yeah. I mean, I think like for me, how it hits home is like one thing that I'm battling with now is I love to cook, right? But I also don't like to cook because I got to clean up the mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have somebody to clean up the mess. So I spend 3 hours cooking and 1 hour cleaning. And I add that up all across the year. And it's a pain point for me to say, well, man, fuck it. I don't want to cook anymore. Like I could save all of that time and energy just having somebody come in and cook for me and do it all for me. Yes, it's going to cost me money, but if I redeposit all those hours into another place, it's the same thing with social, right? Like just because I like some part of it, I don't like the other parts of it. I just do a bad job or I let it shun the whole thing. I mean, I can either pay someone to go and schedule and strategize and do the whole thing, and that is getting to be a lot less right now. But the part that nobody's getting is the engagement. And that's the part that's going to weigh the highest in the coming years is that people are going to need to be engaged with. Otherwise, they're just scrolling by you looking for a laugh. But what makes them stop and think and engage meaningfully? That's the part that we're missing, right? And it's really going to be easy to separate the noise from the boys when it looks like, oh, another website invoice. Oh, another Instagram social media invoice. Oh, another ads invoice. Where does the money go? Like, are we getting paid on this? And asking the right questions. And those are the questions that I think right now are the same ones like, you know, do we do date night every single week? And can we commit to that? It's just the same. Like, is there a loss that you guys have by not doing date night? You lessen your relationship. You lessen your intimacy time together. You don't get as many laughs. You might have a couple like weird arguments. It doesn't matter. It's still quality time that you're able to figure things out. And if you don't do it at all, you are just deciding to live on the sidelines and take what life is going to give to you. And that's not the life that we want to live. We want to live a life by design, not by default. And again, going back to now, like now is the time to lay the tracks. If it's social media, if it's engagement, because you don't know what it is or how it works, there are people out there who are doing it, but it's a small conversation right now. That's why we exist, right? This is what we want to do and we want to help. We just want to say it's more important right now as a restaurant, a winery, distillery, anybody with that digital storefront to take care of your guest before they get in the door and provide a reason for them to trust you and to engage with you. If you can get someone to trust you and engage with you before they even step into your business, guess what's going to happen?
Game over.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to
get
get
a raving fan for life.
Yeah. So why do we not do it? Because we hire the wrong people to get involved with us. And it's okay right now because now is a great time to decide, hey, would you guys run this playbook, this free playbook that we found? Would you guys do engagement like this? You're going to get some nodding heads from your vendors. At the end of the day, it's you to be sure that they're responsible to do it, right? And if you do it, you're going to make more money. If you don't do it, you're on the sidelines.
Yeah. And the, questions like why do they do things the way that they do them? You know, the PR companies, the social media managers, you name it. It's because like, it's just what they do. Like they're not, looking at this deeper level of connection. They're just trying to like check off the box of, hey, you have to do it because everyone has to do social media. Everyone has to do, some form of PR. But really, like at the end of the day, if we look at your business, we've talked about this before. We look at your business like a pipeline. It starts with strangers, people that don't know you and your business, that all of a sudden come into your world, we call those leads. Like they now like you've got their attention.
A great article talking about your restaurant is lead gen. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right? It's an article that you got to press on.
You've got their attention. Well, like once you have someone's attention, like the next natural step is a conversation, and that can and should happen in the DMs. We shouldn't wait until they show up at their reservation and are sitting at our table, or before, they join our wine club, or before they go to their local liquor store to ask for recommendations, between brands. We should start that conversation as early as possible. And so going in the year, like what would it look like if you had a plan, if you knew, hey, these are the 2 or 3 themes that we are going to speak to because we know they're important to our favorite kind of customers, and it's going to be the thing that's going to get their attention. And then what if we had weekly and monthly rhythms with our team to go, hey, here's how we do engagement, because we're putting out all this content around here around these themes. So now we're not going to be tone deaf. We're going to know that like, in the end of the year, we're going to be talking about this theme. And so when you're starting conversations, here's how you can reach out. And before someone ever steps foot in your doors, or goes and asks for a recommendation at a local liquor store, or is planning a trip or something like that, they've had a relationship with you because you've caught their attention. You haven't just caught their attention, but you've held their attention. And the reason why you've held their attention is because you've actually engaged with them like a real human, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, this brand looks sexy from the outside. Like I would love to have a Rolex, or I feel like there's some level of status with this brand, and so I'm going to, there's some benefit there of just like, putting your brand out there in a certain light so it feels luxury, or it feels more casual, feels more family, whatever your brand is going to feel. Sure, there's value to that, but so much more valuable if you can do that and actually connect one-to-one with people. And believe it or not, you actually can do that at scale. You used to not be able to do that at scale. You used to be able to, like, again, I've talked about this a million times. At Nordstrom, we'd write handwritten thank you notes. That's how Nordstrom did it.
But you're right back to the same point. It's connecting. It's like date night. You're picking a way to engage, right? And you're either going to do it or you don't. I think when you look at this conversation of what the ghosted guest is all about, like I was explaining it to one of our engagement specialists yesterday, right? She is a REA, Revenue Engagement Assistant, right? Mm-hmm. And her job is to warm people up and engage. And I was explaining to her, like, do you understand what it means to be ghosted? And she goes, yeah. And I'm like, no, tell me then. And the concept is, I was like, do you know what it feels like when you have a friend who you talked about, saw in person, let's say you're roller skating, you're like, hey, let's go to dinner next Tuesday. And you send them a text the day later, hey, what time do you want to go to dinner on Tuesday? No response. And then 2 days later, hey, I want to, like, what's up? Are we doing this? No response. The night before, like, are we doing this? And they ghosted you the whole time. That's ghosting. And the thing is, we attach a personal feeling to that type of behavior, which is not a positive one by any means, but we put up with it depending on how much we love or trust that person, right? If it's a first-time relationship, that person's done. They're dusted, right? They're sunset. Mm-hmm. Now, if it's on another level, we say, wow, if it's a brand, we can allow brands to do that to us. Where in our human mind did we put the wall up that says it's okay because we are a brand making millions of dollars to go ahead and ghost our people on Instagram because they have a question? And,
or even just because they just liked our post or they followed us, because they follow and then they like a post and then they like a couple other posts and then they never hear anything back from us, even if they didn't reach out and ask a question. And I think that's where it can be subtle, because I can hear, a lot of business owners who are like, well, I'm not getting a bunch of engagement. Like, I don't have people commenting on my posts or sharing my posts or DMing us. Because then, yeah, of course, if they DM me, I'm going to reply. I think most business owners say, yeah, we could probably do it faster. We could do it better. But like on social, the ghosting begins the second somebody follows you and you don't reach out and say, hey. The ghosting begins the second that somebody then likes one of your posts and you don't thank them or reach out. You don't start a conversation. Same thing.
Yeah, and this is the secret sauce, right? I mean, this is why I was telling her, this is why we do engagement. Because these individuals we're following, we want to show that they're important to us, right? And she's like, well, they don't respond. I'm like, they're not going to respond. That's the point. The point is that we're going to understand the people who have engagement managers or social media managers on the backside that do respond within 24 hours.
Yeah.
That's one type of company.
Yeah,
right?
80, just so to be clear, like 80 to 90% of the people that you reach out to will not respond. And that's totally fine. Because
No, it's not fine. I hate that. I think that's the worst part.
well, I think you got to be able to deal with that, because that's life in business. Like we cannot as
No,
business owners.
if you're a
hold
business
up. This
yeah,
we as business owners are reaching out. So let's say you follow my business, Brady, and I'm like, oh, or you follow my profile, and I go,
Yep.
hey Brady, thanks so much for the follow. Nice to meet you. And you
90% of
respond.
people 90% of people I don't get anything from.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't expect, I put no expectation on you as my prospect, patron, customer, client. You are not in I'm not
I think the
entitled
golden
to a response.
I think the golden rule now is if somebody follows you, you have to acknowledge them. That's number
Totally.
one.
And I'm saying that for us, like, yes, for us. On the flip side, I'm not putting that responsibility on customers and patrons, because a couple things are going to happen. One, 10 to 20% will respond, and Brady will be like, oh man, thanks so much. I have like 3 favorite breweries in town, and you're the first one that's ever actually reached out to me. I really appreciate that. So you might respond, and that's awesome. But I tell you, even the other like 80 to 90% that don't respond, still, like, you're front of mind for them, and they might tell other people about you. And even if they don't talk to other folks about you, like, naturally they are going to feel indebted to you. It's the law of reciprocity. You have engaged with them, they will feel like they owe you some engagement back. And if they don't do it there in the DMs, you're going to be top of mind, and probably more likely the next time that they want to book or buy, or you name it. And it's just being a good human.
Yeah, I think it's being selective. I don't know, like when I went after Tesla, right? I bought a Tesla and I DM'd them. No response. I told them that I own a car and I was really excited about it. And then no response. And then I DM in the app on the car app about it, like, no response. I'm like, my charger doesn't work anymore. No response. Then 3 days
That's
later, I
wild.
get it. And then I go back to Instagram and I'm like, hey, I'm just having a tough experience over here. You know, I'd hate to, like, you know, start throwing stuff out online to get your attention. No response. So you're looking at businesses who have people invest their time in. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a restaurant or following a blogger or an influencer. If they make you feel good, you're going to, like you said, you're going to keep them top of mind. And I think that's the most important part right now, is getting this place as it's going to go very calloused and very cold very soon, and the internet's going to change. You better position your company for the right type of company you want to be versus running from it now, because you'll be so far in the dust that those who are doing a good job are going to be the ones who are bought from, purchased from, visited, you know, made reservations with, whatever. I think it's
you're making an impression. Like when you're putting content out there and when you're engaging folks, you are making an impression, whether you realize it or not. And the results that you get back, the responses, the reservations, the sales that you get back are literally just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more goodwill that you're creating in the market by doing that you don't even see. Like I recognized this the other day. I went to a poker night in our community, and my neighbor, I've lived next to the last 2.5 years, we're at this poker night, and he makes a comment about my content. He's like, oh man, he's like, saw you did the book, like that's so amazing, been really like digging your stuff. Dude, he's my freaking neighbor. He hasn't liked anything, he hasn't commented or said anything, but it was there, like it's been taking up space in his mind about what I'm putting out there. So just by doing this kind of work, by posting and by engaging, you are staying top of mind. And what that means is that, you know, the second that someone is ready to make a decision, ready to make a reservation or book an event, you name it, you're way more likely to be the one at the top of that list. So again, those results, it can be discouraging sometimes when you send a bunch of these opens and you don't get a ton of replies, but it's like, hey, that's like, just know that's why your competitors, that's why the competition is going to give up. And if you keep doing it, you're creating so much goodwill, so much social equity in your market that when it comes time to run a big promo or a launch or event, you name it, you're gonna crush, because you'll just be able to tap into that equity that you've been creating over the weeks, months, and years leading up to.
100%.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's the most important play to understand is, if you're going to lay tracks right now on a pain point, which might be digital,
Yep.
then make sure that engagement is at the top of the list, because I'm stressed out about it at certain times of the day where I want to make sure that we are not responding to people, because that makes a big impression. It's a small, but it just compounds so quickly, you know? And if your neighbor were able to say, hey, Gabe, he might have been just about to send that DM to you, you know, next week, but you ran into him at poker night because you've been taking up space in his mind. And he's like, but he sends you a note next week and he says, hey, Gabe, like, you know, I've been loving this, and this one really hit home. You know, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, you don't respond. That says a lot. When you put that much energy or investment into your content and then somebody reaches out and you ghost them. And I think that starts with being a new follower. As any business owner, if you own an Instagram account, then, you know, and I've been the worst at it my entire life. I'm not going to say it, but now I've made a decision to change that. And the results are there. That's the exciting part about it, is the results. You know, like watching my team do this thing, the compliment ladder. Like when they're powering out a stage 4 compliment to somebody, I'm telling you, I get back a pretty crystal clear response. And it is like yesterday we got like, this means the world to me. I can't tell you that this made my week. Like literally a compliment from somebody who lives online. Not me, that person. I know they're there all the time. That's how important it is to send compliments to people. So that's what I kind of say is like part of that engagement rule is like, you know, when you find someone who follows you, then there's this rhythm of going back and forth and liking their stuff and commenting and hearting and commenting and liking and building a little bit of rapport back and forth. And then you hit them with a compliment. And you really take a moment to see who they are as a person, what's on their grid, and you show them some love. That starts to build like genuine trust. And I don't think there's any way around that right now. There's no robot that's going to do this technique. And I think if this is the way it's going to be, it's like people are going to want to share your stuff. They're going to want to engage with you. They're going to want to comment. They're going to want to share. They're going to want to like it's just building a relationship. And I think that's what we need to do as business owners, is build relationship equity, like you said.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that's good. It's a good word. I think that's